Welcome aboard to the world's finest strike podcast with your host and author of the novel Deception Underway, Patrick Riley. The show where sea stories come to life, liberty adventures are relived, and the voices of sailors past and present are heard loud and clear. Named in honor of the USS Hewitt DD-966, the world's finest strike destroyer, this podcast is dedicated to the men and women who served at sea and the unforgettable moments that shaped their lives. Whether you're a salty veteran, a curious civilian, or just here for the ride, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Cool. Hey, Dave. Good seeing you.
Hey, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Yeah, it's
man. Appreciate it.
it's. I'm really excited to have you on. We've been talking for quite a while, so and I do want to talk to people other than the Hewitt. It mentions the Hewitt earlier, and that's how I kind of came up with the World's Finest Strike podcast. And when it said World's Finest Strike Destroyer, I was like, crap, that's right. I've said it so often that I forgot about the destroyer part, and it's now the podcast. I've kind of just took over that name, so I'll go with that.
Nice.
So,
awesome.
yeah, absolutely. Hey, I want to introduce everyone. This is Dave Knapp, one of my good friends from the USS Towers. I met you the first time in 1989 when I first got over to the Towers. But if you could introduce...
Yeah, been a minute.
Yeah. Oh, and of course the dog's barking now. But yeah, if you could introduce yourself.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Patrick. Yeah, Dave Knapp. Did 6 years in service. Like I said, met you on the Towers back in '89. Served in the Towers for just under 2 years, right until we got decommed right there at the end of '90. And we were EWs, electronic warfare techs, together. So I headed back to sea school a little bit earlier than you did. You went to the Hewitt. I went back to sea school, got my V2, and then I went up to USS Seattle AOE 3 up in New Jersey. Did a couple of years up there. Yeah. Okay. And then finished up there. That was a beast, man. You know, that ship, I forget what year. Like 1 year, I think it was like maybe 92 or 93. We were the most underway in the fleet. It was that thing. We were always gone. It was like always gone. It was crazy.
Wow. So yeah. You were out of New Jersey, and I know you came over to see me once when we were in Norfolk when I was on the Mount Whitney. So I
think I was down in school. I was going to threat rec school or one of those down in Dam Neck, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did one of those as well. And since I was already in Norfolk, it was easy just to get over there. But that's great. So how would you compare the West Coast to the East Coast? Because when you were out to sea on the AE, did you pull into ports a lot, or was it similar to when we were on the Towers where we were able to pull in? How was it as a supply ship?
So we were a deep draft. So it was a little different of what ports we're allowed to go to, kind of like a carrier is a deep draft. So a lot of our COs ended up being these wannabes that wanted to go to aircraft carriers to be COs there because we were deep draft.
Okay.
Plus we were replenishment. So a lot of ports we were going to mostly were had to have some sort of fueling capability. So like the one over in Italy, actually in Sicily, I can't quite remember the name of the port, but it was a big refinery, and that's where we pulled in. But it was like it was a 15 or 20 minute ride to town because
wow,
you know, it was just, you know, refuel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could definitely understand that. You know, it would be a lot easier to get onto those ships that we were able to pull in. I think it was a nice thing when we were on the Towers. We weren't with the battle group with the Midway, and the Midway went on the Desert Storm. So we stayed behind in Japan, but we went pierside in Hong Kong, which is really unusual. So that was pretty nice because we went, I think it was in October '89, we went to Hong Kong, and we had to anchor out with everybody else. So taking those Liberty boats into Hong Kong. So it's
yeah, just like in I think Thailand too, right? There was no piers.
Yeah.
We had to take the boats in and out. Yeah.
Well, now I heard in Thailand they do have a port close by, so it's in
Oh
between
wow,
Bangkok
really?
and Pattaya. Yeah, so they can go pier side, and even cruise ships. Cruise ships will pull into there, and people can go either north to Bangkok or south to Pattaya. So we'll figure that one out later. We'll have to see
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah.
how that goes. But yeah, I remember those long boats that they had in Thailand, and they had the like the outrigger motors that with the long shaft,
Yeah.
and that's how they were able to get us in. And we still had to wait in a little bit. They couldn't get us as close as I was. It would be
It was
nice, but
nice. We took a couple of the speedboats. I remember, what was his name? Keithley? Was it Keithley?
yeah,
I
Keithley, yeah,
Yeah, remember Jason? I remember me, him, Cicero. I forget whoever else, but we're like, because Cicero had been there, so he's like, "Oh, let's go get a motorboat." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, let's get one of these guys." And they let him come up to the ship, and we just hopped on, and the
yeah.
guy let Keithley drive the boat. He had like twin outboards, and we're
Oh,
just
wow,
hauling ass up to the pier.
yeah,
Yeah, it's funny,
oh, that's great.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
was funny. Have you heard from Keithley at all? Have you? I don't
You know,
even know. He's just tough. I mean,
Cicero went to my wedding when I got my first wedding, first wedding. But I haven't heard from Keith Lee. So I haven't
yeah,
heard of any. You're like the only one.
yeah. Well, and that was the thing with I remember Keithley, him and I, and this is sort of the one of those etiquette things I always tell you about in Japan. It's like when you're on the trains, don't talk on your phone. Now you don't talk on your phone, but back then we didn't have phones to really
Yeah,
talk.
didn't exist.
I remember him and I. We went to Tokyo, and I think on the way back we just started laughing. I don't know what happened, but we were laughing so hard we were almost crying. And we were laughing about nothing, and it was kind of embarrassing to kind of looking back on it now, like, ooh, we were a little unorthodox and kind of not what the culture was really doing, but we couldn't stop laughing. It was the weirdest thing. It's like we weren't on any drugs, that was for sure. But
Yeah,
this was one of those weird things that we were on the train. But
yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
the trains are pretty, pretty cool still. I love, taking the trains in Japan because we
yeah,
don't have
yeah.
that around, in Colorado, or I think the closest thing you get is like Chicago or New York with the different trains. But
Right,
yeah,
right.
I remember. Yeah, Thailand was something else with the boats, be able to get in there. I know we hit Caligula's. That was the one of the bars there. Like you said, when
Yeah,
we were 20.
yeah,
That was a little rough, especially.
yeah,
I think I was
yeah,
19, but oof, yeah, that was like my. I think that
yeah.
was my first port of call too. Outside of
Really?
Japan.
Was it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We were
because
on
you,
our way
you
over
came
to.
on. You came on. What, 6 months after I did, or so, something like that, maybe.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
got there in let's see, December. It was New Year's Eve, I think, '88. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh wow. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. So when did you join? When did you go into the Navy?
I joined in April '88. Right, did boot in Orlando, and then went to A school over in Pensacola, and got done. It was weird. I got done right before Thanksgiving, and I took an extended liberty because they going overseas, they allowed you to take an extra long um,
Hmm.
vacation there. So did that, and of course, getting there, that was the worst trip ever. I left the day after Christmas. It took me 5 days. 5 days it took me because I left. I was flying out of Albany, flew into Chicago into a snowstorm. Flights delayed. Had to spend the
Oh,
night in
geez.
Chicago. Flew to St. Louis.
Hmm.
Almost hit the. We're trying to land. The pilot had to pull up because the crew was on the runway trying to clear snow. We almost ran into them.
Wow.
Went to Oakland because we were late. I think
Yep.
I missed my flight. We were stuck in Oakland. Went from Oakland
Hmm.
to Anchorage. Had a short delay in Anchorage, and
Yep.
because I was delayed the first one, I missed my MAC flight. I was supposed to get a MAC flight, missed that.
Yeah.
So Anchorage down to Okinawa. Had to spend the night overnight in Okinawa. Yeah.
Oh,
Wait for
jeez.
another plane, and then up to Clark, and then I can't remember the last base we got to, but it was like an hour and a half bus ride from Yokosuka, and we had to spend the night because we had to wait for the bus. We were sleeping on the chairs on the ground, whatever, dude. It was crazy. It took
Wow.
5 freaking days to get there.
Wow. So that was Yokota that you probably flew into.
Yeah, that was probably the last one then. Yeah,
Yokota.
Yokota. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I had it a little easier, but I mean, I kind of almost screwed it up on my own getting over to Japan because I was in Chicago already. So I just kind of knocked that little leg out that you had. But when I got down to uh, St. Louis, just like you, I forgot my orders in the back of my buddy's car who dropped me off at the airport.
Dude.
So my mom actually had to take the orders back up to Midway Airport in Chicago, paid for a flight. So basically my orders sat next to the captain, flew down behind me because I think my flight was only $50 to get down to St. Louis, but it cost $200 to fly the orders down. So I was like, oh my God. My mom's like, yeah, your orders were more expensive than you flying.
And
okay,
you,
right.
that's funny.
But yeah, same thing. It went from St. Louis to Oakland, Anchorage, right into Yokota, and then the bus right down. But yeah, I didn't have any other delays besides
down
to
Okinawa. Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my experience getting there.
Yeah,
then I get there New Year's Eve, and I don't know anybody, and I think I don't even know who it was that like come hang out with us. I'm like, all right, whatever. It was crazy. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So once you were on, I think you guys were out to sea before I was there. What was your first port of call that you went to?
Dude, honestly, I really don't remember. It was probably Philippines.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know like where we went to the Philippines quite often, so that was definitely something we would do.
We're always going to the PI. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Korea, we would go to Korea occasionally, not as often.
Were you on when we went? We went to Towers. Went to Korea once.
I'm trying to think. I'm the same way. Like, okay, I went to Korea several times. I think I probably did. I know I went on the Hewitt for sure. We did Teen Spirit on the Hewitt. And we went to Busan, and there was another one. Yeah, that one was a little different.
I think we went to Sasebo.
Sasebo's in Japan. So,
geez, why am I getting that wrong?
Yeah.
Where the hell
I went to Sasebo. Yeah, we did go to Sasebo with the Towers. And I remember, and we went over and, where did we go? We went to Nagasaki. Yeah, because I remember I was on the Towers going to Sasebo because those guys, we went skiing together in Megamiko out of in Japan. So I met a few people when we went skiing. So yeah, skiing in Japan's a little different. Did you ever do any like side trips with MWR in Yokosuka?
I never did. I don't know why. I was young and stupid and more interested in drinking and women than I was in seeing stuff. I remember you going out like, oh, Pat's going out. You went to Fuji, I think. I'm like, oh man, he's going out and doing this. And I'm like, here I am just going out to the haunch and chasing girls and getting hammered. Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of the guy that always, if you needed to get around Tokyo, I was the guy that you had to call to get around Tokyo. Because I remember Cicero, I kind of scared him when he was leaving. Yeah, I know he was there for quite a while, but I think he was there for 4 years in Japan.
Yeah.
And he really never left base. I was like, dude, you got to go out and see Tokyo a little bit. And I kind of scared him because it was Golden Week. And I said, how are you going to get to the airport? You kind of have like a noon flight. You're not going to get there by the bus. And he was a little freaked out, and he talked to the chief. And I think it was Schultz. Schultz, I think, was our chief at the time. If I can remember that far. He came over with me. I mean, we got on the ship right around the same time because he was an instructor at Quarry Station. And I kind of met him when I was out there, but nothing real close. But yeah, so he talked to him. He's like, hey, Pat's got to take me to the airport. And I took him up there. It was no problem, and he was really cool. He bought me lunch. Yeah, and that's all I was really looking for. It's just train ticket, a day off, and lunch.
Yeah.
That's how. That's all I charged. Yeah, and if it was like, hey, I need to get to the Tokyo Dome, cool, let's do a beer as well. So, but yeah, that's normally. I loved getting around Tokyo. That was really a great place, and it was safe, it was clean, and even when I transferred over the Hewitt, when they pulled in, I grabbed those guys and we went up to Roppongi. So Roppongi was kind of the place that I always just hung out at all the time, but it was cool. I think that's that next book that I'm writing. Oh man, how about that? Now, hopefully, when I do the processing of the episode, you don't hear the coughing. Yeah, the nice thing AI takes out of it for us.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever. I think I might have went to Roppongi one time, but I don't really recall going up there a whole lot. Yeah.
Okay. I should have taken you out a lot more. What the heck?
I know, dude.
Think, yeah, and I think it was yeah. Hey, don't worry. Next time I'll take you to Roppongi. How about that?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Next time
I'll take you to. Yeah. Although that's the thing, I think you and I were talking about. Well, we are talking about doing our own little trip. And just hanging out. It's more the research for the book or for the next book. I kind of, we're going to leave out Japan. I think I've got enough material or just experience with Japan where I don't need to go back there. But yeah, Hong Kong, I need to kind of go back. I was there a couple times and it was great. And yeah, we did go there. And I think I do still have a picture of you and I. We did go to Jumbo's floating restaurant in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's gone. I heard it's.
No way, is it?
I was like, yep, it is gone. There's no more floating restaurant because I heard it caught fire and it sunk. I was like, that's not good.
Yeah.
That was a great place. Yeah, and I think it was in Aberdeen Harbor was where it was. And one of the guys I hung out with, oddly enough, was Chief Bowling. He was a OS chief.
Gosh, I need to I know the name. I'm trying to remember who he was though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was. It was funny. If I talk to him, I'm sure he'll probably be like, "Yeah, I was like late 30s." I mean,
I know, right?
I would think that he was like in his 50s or 60s, but I know
right.
I know he was probably young at the time, but much older than me. So. Yeah, but I'll have to get a hold of him, see if he can join one of the podcasts and kind of get his experience too, because I think he's down in Kentucky now. But nice. And there was another OS one that went out with us, and he was just I want to say his name was I can't I don't even want to guess.
Was it Erky?
Was he a little rough to deal with?
Mike Erky, and what did we call him? Shoot. Oh, I can't remember what the hell we called him. He had this a nickname from it was a movie or movie character. Wyatt Earp. Remember we called him Wyatt because his last name was Erke, Irke, Erky.
Yeah,
Wyatt Earp.
Yeah,
so we called him Wyatt Earp. Yeah, remember I think we hung out with him and
yep. Yeah, he made a poor girl cry. Yeah, we went out and we were in Hong Kong, so we were over in Kowloon, and I don't know if you remember, there was a bar in Kowloon where it was even featured in one of the James Bond movies.
The Australian outlaw bar, right?
I'm not sure.
There's an Australian outlaw that had the metal. Helmet. What the hell was that?
Yeah, that's true.
People are gonna watch this and go, "These guys can't remember shit, man."
Right? We're getting there. We're I think we'll just name this. Hey, we're getting a little old, but we need to go relive our experiences again so we can talk about it a little better.
Yeah.
But no, this is perfect. And that though the
Ned
bar, it was
Kelly's. Ned Kelly's, was that it?
at Kelly's. That was one of them that we went to. I need to go.
Oh,
We need
okay.
to go to that
That's
one
the one I
again.
remember going to. I don't remember who I went with, but yeah, Ned Kelly's.
I thought it was like Bottoms Up or something like that.
Oh
And
shit. I
the
don't know.
thing was, there was a girl that's the bartender was topless, and she sat on like a little couch. It was round, and she basically rotated around and served your drinks. And there was a poor girl from the UK. She she was okay looking, but maybe her breasts weren't as nice. But Irk was just
Bottoms up. You're right. That's the James
I,
Bond bar.
that was it. It was Bottoms
Yeah,
up.
bottoms
I
up.
did
Yeah,
remember
bottoms up. Yeah. I was like, I think I went to that. We must have been hanging out and just kind of maybe don't remember well because I went to
yeah,
bottoms up with somebody. I don't know who it was. I don't remember. And we went to Ned Kelly's. I remember going to
yeah,
both of those.
yeah. There was
Yeah.
another one we went to. I remember pretty well in Hong Kong, or I'm sorry, with the Hewitt, and that was Mad Dogs. I think Mad Dogs was the one. And the cool thing there was, yeah, I did get a massage next door, and I remember it was like kind of an open bay massage parlor where there was. It was like it was kind of cold in the stinking room, but this little old Chinese lady, and that's when they had the little handlebars on the ceiling. She just worked me over, but it felt great.
Walk on your back.
Yes, she walked on my back. That was
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, she was probably like 60 or 70. She was older, but she was pretty damn strong. And I just needed that massage to work it out. And it worked. It worked out fine.
Nice.
So, but and then I got for some reason, that Mad Dogs and it was Ned Kelly's as well. I know I got a suit tailor made for me right next door as well. And it was awesome. But the problem with the suit, now I'm too old. I had to get rid of the thing because I was a lot bigger than I was when I was 19. It's amazing how that works out.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
My dress whites don't fit anymore.
right. Yeah, I think I tried once. I couldn't even get my leg into the damn thing. But yeah, and last night we went to Yacht Rock Review. My cousin and I went for a show, and it was funny because there were people dressed up. There was a guy he had his like a dress white shirt on, but it was an officer's shirt because he had the lieutenant commander shoulder boards,
Shoulder boards.
and
Yeah.
that was what he was wearing. And then his wife actually had his officer's cap with the scrambled eggs on it. And I was like,
Well, that's
that's not too yachty.
you're
That's
well, scrambled
Navy.
eggs aren't and scrambled eggs are either you're the captain or you have to be an O6 or the commander of a ship or a base to have scrambled eggs, right?
No, I think it's just anything with your, is it '05 and higher? And then
I thought
once
it
you
was
get
O
into
six and higher,
admirals, then
but
it's double rolls.
yeah, I thought it was
Yeah.
commander
Could be.
of a installation or a ship or an O6 to get scrambled eggs. But either way, whatever. Yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And it was at a concert. I was like looking at it going, that's not a yacht. You know, we didn't sail on yachts. And because a
yeah.
lot of people, they had the little, stupid little yacht hats on. I didn't do that. But yeah, it was an interesting show. It was pretty cool to be able to just, you know, I saw that guy. I was like, I'm not going to talk to him. And my cousin pointed out because it looked like there was a brand new shirt because the creases were really sharp on it.
Right.
So I just remember trying to get my stuff somewhat squared away. You know, especially on the towers. It was such a small space that we had, and I had to tuck up underneath. I had one of the big pipes going right by my rack, and I had
Right
to
by your
kind of
rack. Yeah.
swing my there. Yeah, that was
Oh, you
always
were on a top rack, huh? Oh,
yes. I had a top rack. So, were you lucky enough to get the middle rack, or were you on the bottom?
I got really lucky when I got there. They put me in a bottom rack, and then I forget who was above me. It might have been JJ or somebody, whoever was above me. When they left, I swooped into the middle rack and then stayed in the middle rack for the rest of the time I was there.
Was JJ one of the ETs?
ETs, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think he was like one of those. Yeah, I think he was talking about. I think he spent some time over in Saudi Arabia just as a civilian. Then he came back in, and I always
Really?
remember that story where he just did not like Saudi Arabia. And of course, we went into Bahrain, and he was just like, I don't want to deal with these people. I don't. He was just done with.
Yeah, there wasn't much to do there anyway, right? We went to the ASU, right, the alcohol support unit, and
Yeah,
played shuffleboard and drank, and then
exactly.
other than that, I mean, I think the only thing I did outside of that was went and bought some gold.
Right. Yep. I did buy some gold. When I was in, I can't remember. I think it was in Oman. I bought some gold there, and because I was with the Tower, or I'm sorry, I was with the Hewitt.
Mhm.
And when I finally saw my girlfriend from Japan, I had a ring for her. It was just a gold ring. And I kind of was joking around. You know how you kind of bite into a gold and you
Yeah,
see it was so damn soft. I actually bit into it and left
you're
a
like,
little
damn
mark.
it,
I was like, oh,
shit.
geez. It's real. It's real gold. But
Yeah,
yeah, I remember they always had this stupid, you could get the cologne, everything. But yeah, just trying to find alcohol in those places is a little difficult. And,
it was. Yeah,
ASU, I forgot about that. Yes, I went there.
yeah. Remember? Oh, they had it looked like a cafeteria where
Yeah.
you could buy beer, and then I remember the shuffleboard table, and then there was like some couches with some TVs, and I'm like, this is it. This is where we're getting hammered, playing
This
shuffleboard.
Yeah, and even though those other places, you have to find a hotel, like a
Yeah,
international hotel, and they would have it. And
yeah.
stupid elephant beer. I think that was the stuff that we would have
I think that was
occasionally.
what was that wasn't from Kenya, the elephant beer.
Oh shoot, that's right. Oh, that was
Remember we
nasty
went to
stuff.
Kenya? We pulled into
Yeah.
Kenya, Mombasa,
Oh God.
and they had the elephant beer there.
Yes. Yep.
Tusker,
Yep. Yep.
Tusker, right? I think it's
That's it.
called Tusker.
Tusker. Yep. Yep. Did you do a safari when we were in Mombasa?
No, I was stupid, dude.
Hey,
You
you didn't
guys
do
went on a
anything.
safari. You guys went on a safari, and I'm like, where can I get beer? I'm like, beer.
Oh
Find some
God.
hot freaking Kenyan woman, man. I'm like, no. And
Uh,
Beatty had us so scared to death of AIDS. It was like, oh my god, I better stay away from these African women, right?
Right.
You remember
Right.
Beatty, ET1?
Uh huh.
Had us
Yeah.
scared to death of AIDS, scared to death, just out there. And hey, I'm a different man now than I was then. Good Lord is awesome.
Yes,
He's
sir.
the man. But Beatty was like he was like some sort of crazy like Bible thumping like just I don't know. He was like he's off the deep end with that,
Wow.
and it was like you're going to hell. It's like everybody's going to hell. You're all going to hell. That was what Beatty
Right.
was. Remember, remember we crossed the equator. He wouldn't do that. He
Yeah.
sat up in remember our ET, remember
Really.
our up there in our work area. He
Yeah.
he he and some ensign sat up there because
Okay.
they wouldn't participate in the ceremony. They're like, all right, you guys got to sit up here all day and just do
Wow.
nothing. Here's a book.
Was that when you crossed the line for the first time,
Yeah,
or did you cross earlier?
yeah,
Okay.
no, Singapore. Yeah,
I went together. Yeah. Um, yeah, because yeah, I participated. I because you got to do it. Even when I was on the Hewitt, I left before they went back over, and of course they were upset because they went over before I got there, and they thought they were going to take advantage of me. I was like, no, no, I went over in the towers, so I had my
yep.
paperwork all squared away. Here it
Here's
is,
my card.
and the captain of the Hewitt never crossed in his whole career. So he actually participated as the captain of the ship. He was a sport, and
Dude,
I
that's awesome.
yeah, because he's just like I think he probably wanted to go on a little further, but he's like I can't have that on my record that I didn't participate. So yeah, he
Yeah,
was a shellback. He became a shellback, and he's in the cruise book. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And of course, I wasn't there to. I'm sure I don't know if guys laid off on him, but they might have.
I'm sure
Yeah,
they
yeah,
did a little bit, but probably in the certain areas, I'm sure they laid off on them, and
yeah.
probably other areas like get the olive, buddy. You're getting that olive. Bare
Oh,
your face,
that was nasty. Yeah, I remember that.
dude.
That
I forget
there was
who it was on the towers, but boy, he had a big old. Oh my gosh, dude.
and the stupid lard. They put the lard in there, and it
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
big
You
bowl of
know,
lard and olive.
it, that the worst. I think the worst part for me was to me. I'm like, it wasn't that bad at all. I'm like, this. I really had fun. Honestly, tell you the truth, I had fun. I forget whose wog dog I was the day before, but
Uh-huh.
I had a good time. I mean, they really were. They were sports. I'm sure years before. Other guys are like even hardcore, but letting us tape the shower shoes onto our knees because of the non-skid was nice. But diving through that torpedo tube with
Uh-huh.
all that nasty shit and I forget what he told me. I had to fish out with my mouth. That was the worst. I was like, that shit was nasty. I was like, oh my god, that's freaking gross.
Right.
And then after that was the royal baby. I'm like, after this ain't nothing, dude. A piece of cake.
Yeah. Yeah. I still had the paper or my card sitting over there. I still have that. Yeah,
I'm pissed. I've got my card, but I can't find my the big printout.
right. I don't know where that. I'm the same way. I don't know where that is. But yeah,
I think my ex threw it out because she was probably pissed at me. She's like, "Oh, f him, shit in the trash."
yeah, yeah. I remember yelling for Flipper off the bow. So that was always nice. It was a nice way to start the day. Just
Yeah,
yelling for Flipper. But yeah, that was always good. Yeah, I was gonna say about with Mombasa. I did the safari, and that was pretty cool. Went up to Mount Kilimanjaro, but when we got back, we did hit one of the bars, and at the bars we started drinking. And I remember this native woman from Africa stopped by, and she was just like Jumbo. I'm like, oh, Jumbo, and she's like, do you want a blowjob? I'm like, Jesus Christ! And the same thing, Beatty just had it sucked in your head that there was AIDS, and I'm just like,
AIDS.
no, I'm getting out of here. I was like, I don't want to deal with it. But yeah, I remember she was just so black. I mean, I was like, I've never seen somebody that black, but it was just, like she's so blatant. Like, oh, you want a blowjob? I'm like, no.
Yeah,
And I think there's OSs actually. I saw some pictures from some of the OSs. They picked up a girl and they had her in their hotel room, and I was like, guys, what are you doing? I didn't want to deal with it, so I was
that's
like,
funny.
we'll wait for Australia. So Australia with Bunbury.
So yeah, so that cruise, I guess we should go back, right? So that cruise, we went from we stopped in PI, right? Did we hit
We stopped on the way back. We didn't stop on the way there.
Where'd we hit? Where'd we hit first when we left?
It was Thailand. We hit Pattaya Beach.
We went Thailand. Oh,
yeah,
it's a hell of a way to start a cruise. Going to Thailand.
Exactly. And we skipped Singapore. We didn't go to Singapore. Then we went to Bahrain. Hung out. Did some circles in the Persian Gulf. Down to Mombasa.
No, we hit. Dude, I went to Singapore. We went to Singapore in that. Yeah, that would have been the only time I would have made Singapore.
Okay.
Because we went from Thailand to Singapore, then we crossed the equator, scooting up between there and Malaysia, going up to get into the IO. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess.
And then like you said, we went up to Bahrain, up through the North Arabian, which was always fun, going through the Straits.
Yep.
And then we came out. What's that?
It was a silkworm envelope. I remember scooting through there because they had the silkworm mussels kind of tracking us, or just we had to be aware of them. And I think we were locked down.
We were in GQ for that.
Yeah. And then,
then we went down to Mombasa, and then we stopped at Diego. Remember what was that cruiser that got hit by a training?
The Reed.
The Reeves. Yeah, a buddy of mine was an EW on there, and a piece of shrapnel busted through because they had a V3. It busted through their cooling unit and their heat exchanger, and it took out their cooling unit for the V3 on their ship.
Wow.
Yeah.
And of course, the reason why I knew it was the Reeves is because 2 weeks ago I spoke to one of my buddies who was on the Midway at the time, and he went into Fremantle, Perth. So, and then eventually he did transfer over to the Hewitt with me. Yeah. That's how I met him. But yeah, he told, and I thought it was the Cochrane, for some reason that got hit,
No,
but
it's
in
the
a
Reeves. Yeah.
yeah,
Dropped that
and
500-pound
dummy bomb, yeah,
couple miles off target.
right. Oh, jeez. I don't know if he's
Yeah.
flying anymore, but
No, that guy is not, I'm sure.
yeah. But what do you
But yeah,
remember about
but anyway, yeah,
Bunbury?
Diego, and then we went to Bunbury.
Yeah, I think there was like what
Bunbury.
24 to 40,000 people in that town.
Yeah, there wasn't
Um,
that many. That what was the OS chief's name again? What was his name?
I think it was Bowling, Chief
Bowling.
Bowling.
I think he was the one. I think that first day when we got hit Australia, there was a chief with us, but we went out. We found this hotel. It was like on like this point up on these rocks, out looking over the water, and we're like found this place where everybody was going to get some rooms there, but it was like 10 o'clock in the morning, and they opened the bar for us, and we just started
Yes.
drinking. And he was with us, I think, because we got, oh my god, that was I think the drunkest of my entire life I've ever been, because we started, like I said, 10 in the morning, and the entire
Hmm.
day drank. That was my epic puke in Main Street in Bunbury, Australia. I think I told you this, but yeah, we were at the hotel drinking White Russians. Why? Don't know. Drinking
Right.
White Russians. We're there for a
Uh-huh.
couple hours, getting hammered. We go down into town, start checking everybody out, seeing where the bars are. Everybody's down there partying it up. We're having a good time. I think it was Keith Lee and Cicero wanted to go get pizza. It's like 2 in the morning. We're just keep
Oh my.
drinking. I'm like, 2 in the morning, go get
Yeah.
some pizza. I'm like sitting out there. They're like, come in, come in. I'm like, no, I don't want to, man. I'm not hungry. They're like, just come in, come in. They bring me in. They sit me down in a booth, and I'm like lying down, like, all of a sudden the fumes just overwhelm me. I'm like, oh, I gotta go, man. And I run
Oh,
out across the sidewalk, put my hand like on a side of a car, and I just barfed all over the street. Blah. It was just horrible. It was like, yeah, my first night in Australia. Wonderful.
that is great.
Yeah,
Yep.
dude,
Yep.
it was crazy. Yeah.
One of the craziest things I remember, and of course, I was, I think I was 19. Yeah, that was that first cruise. I was still 19. I was still naive about what was going on because people had to tell me that,
Sure.
hey, a prawn is actually like shrimp. I'm like, oh, I love shrimp. I love
Yeah.
prawns, but they're bigger. And
Yeah.
so I went to a Chinese restaurant, and it was right there on that main drag in Bunbury. And I remember I ordered prawns and chili. I'm like, Hormel. I love Hormel, right? I'm thinking like American chili. No, these were stinking like Thai chili. They were nice big
Jeez.
prawns,
Yeah.
but my God, I was just crying because I was trying to eat
So
it,
hot.
sweating. I was like, and I like spicy food, but that was so spicy. I'm trying to scrape off as much sauce as possible, trying to
We
power
can
through.
save this for later and don't forget. But yeah, one of the trips I was in Thailand, I was with
Uh
a person, a female from
huh.
Thailand, and
Yep.
went to a food market, and I was like,
Uh huh.
"Oh, sweet and sour chicken. That sounds good."
Right.
Oh, dude, Thai food so hot. I was like
Yeah.
dying. Like just it like lit me up. But yeah,
Yep.
it's like going overseas, right? You're like you think you trying to be a part of it, and you have no idea what you're eating. But yeah, man, prawns and chilies in Australia. That's funny.
In
That was a good
Australia.
trip.
Oh, that was
Australia was
such
a
a
hell
great.
of a trip, man. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, I think being so that was what 89. That was a fall, like November,
Yes.
right? That was our last port.
Yes.
So
Yep.
November '89. So I was 21, just
Okay.
shy of 22. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I was still. I mean, it was the same thing as you. I was just like, chasing girls and drinking and
Hmm.
partying, and I think that's all we did all week. I think I was fortunate in a way to have 2 duty days while we were there, because we were
Okay.
there I think for a week. So like I think only
Yeah.
one of them had 1 duty day. Everybody else had two. But
Yeah.
yeah, we were there and drinking the local. Remember we were talking? I think we were talking about that before. Instead of orange juice, they had high C. Like make sure
Yeah.
orange high C with your drinks. And
Yeah, so those are the
getting
type of screwdrivers I had. Yeah, and
yeah.
for some reason I was on a screwdriver kick at that time. Besides
Dude, I
the
was too. After that trip, well, after that first day, I was like, I'm not drinking these White Russians ever again. So
right.
they had the Swan beer. I was like,
Yes.
beer's okay. Had a
Yeah.
couple Swans here and there,
Uh-huh.
but I was like, hey, one of the girls and the bartenders, they're all flipping gorgeous. I think one of them was
Yes.
like, here, have a screwdriver, but it was with the orange high C. I was like, oh, it was so smooth. I was like, oh, this is
Yes.
really smooth. I was like, there was not that bitter, sharpness of the orange juice to it. It was had the
Uh-huh.
orange flavor, but it was smooth. I was like, oh yeah. So I mean, I think I switched to that for the rest of the time I was there, is drinking those
Yeah.
things.
I
Yeah,
think as the night went on for me, the amount of orange juice got less and less. So
yeah.
it was more and more vodka. I
Well,
was
that's
like,
any
this is
bar,
just
right?
yeah. And I think that was like the night before we left. I just got plowed, and I remember I getting back to the ship. I can kind of see the twilight where it's just like the dawn was breaking. It was like, and I just slept in I didn't even get to my rack. I just went right upstairs to the equipment room and just kind of fell asleep on the floor, and I was
I
out.
was on. That was that last day there was duty day. I think that's where I
Oh,
was kind of going with that
oh,
before. I
you're
felt
lucky.
lucky because I didn't have to worry about it because I met
Yeah.
this model. Well, in my brain, she was a model esque, just
Uh huh.
blonde, beautiful blonde girl, absolutely gorgeous. I was just wow.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know why I never got her contact information, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
They took
could be a
care of
little
us there.
Dave running around down there in Australia somewhere for all I know.
There you go. Yeah, that was kind of what yeah, my boys said about this book. They're like, "How many kids do we have to worry about? Don't worry about it." It's like, I thought I kept it clean. But of course they're like, "What about Ireland? What about this? What about?" Yeah, I know, I get it, but I try to keep it good. But yeah, you're right. What do we got in Australia? But yeah, yeah, like I said, they took great care of us in Australia, and after we
Yeah.
left, and luckily, we're so lucky that we went to Bunbury. We were on our own. I think they, yeah, because the Midway and I know the Fife for sure, and the rest of the battle group were up in Perth,
Perth.
and I
And
guess that's a
Cochrane
big
went.
enough.
Was Cochrane the other DDG that was up there? No.
Yeah, mhm,
Was it?
yes,
Their
yeah, and I
DDG
think they were
21 or
north.
something, right? They went to some
Yeah,
little town north. Yeah. So they were
yeah,
on their own.
yeah,
So they looked, hopefully they had as great of a time as we did.
yeah. Because who knows about Bunbury? I've spoken to people. Like one of my offices is in Perth, or my former company, and I was talking to one of the guys that runs that, and I was like, "Yeah, I was in Bunbury." He's like, "How the hell do you know Bunbury?" Yeah, I know Bunbury.
Spent a week in Bunbury.
Right.
Yes.
And I think the Towers went to Darwin. I was like, really? You guys went to Darwin? But that sounds cool. But yeah, they're just it's good to be on a smaller ship where you can pull into those little areas where, yeah, if you're on an aircraft carrier, you're just with
Oh, you're
5,000
just
people.
another Joe Schmo. Yeah.
Yeah. And even in the Philippines, I think we were able to escape, because I think we went to Barrio a lot. That was a lot better than hanging out in the Longapo with all the other sailors. And yeah, I think
Yeah. I forget. Is that what it was called? Barrio?
yeah, it
I
was
can't
because this is
remember.
between Olongapo and Subic. So Subic was Subic City was a little further out, and that was where it got a little more raunchy. Than of course
I
Olongapo.
never went. I don't think I ever went to Subic City.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, I just
it was
stayed right there, usually just in Alongapo, or right. You take up and over that hill, and then down along that next stretch. It's where a lot of the
yeah,
ETs hung out at one of those places up there, and went up there quite a few times. Yeah.
yeah, and that was Barrio. That was Barrio Beretta.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So that's where we usually hung out. I did make it down to Subic a couple times. That's down where Below Haven is. So uh, Below
Yeah.
Haven's a little rough. We'll talk about that one later.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
I actually have pictures of that. It's like oof, the tables are up a little high, and then I
Playing
had a picture.
Smiles or something like that.
Yep, that was it.
Yeah.
That was the game. So I was there, but well, that was the thing because so you spent some time on the East Coast as well, and like you see, you mentioned the ship you were
Oh
on,
yeah.
deep
East Coast
drafts.
is completely. It's like G rated,
Mm-hmm.
maybe
It
PG
really is.
13 at best.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because when I was on the East Coast, I went to Nassau, went to Cork in Ireland, Kiel in Germany, and Stavanger in Norway. Norway was awesome. Where you mentioned the girls in Australia, the girls in Norway, incredible. They're all blonde.
Oh
It
yeah.
was
We went to so yeah we did a North Atlantic,
mhm.
and we went to a place called Namsos, and they were very conservative. I guess is the correct
Okay.
word.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't much fun. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
sort of, and it was so expensive too. I remember I was like, oh my god, Lord, it was expensive. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that was the that's one of the reasons why, like in Japan, we really lucked out because did you ever stay at the New Sano in Japan?
no,
No. So yeah, because there's a nice hotel there, and it was real close to Roppongi. And what we'd always do is we'd hit the New Sano first because there were dollar beers in our own club there. So we get good juice there, pour ourselves into a taxi cab, go take a 5 minute ride into Roppongi, and then instead of paying $7 a beer and trying to get drunk, you just have to
yeah.
milk it. You pay one drink and you just kind of take it easy, and that was a lot better. But yeah, I know those like Norway is a little expensive.
Oh yeah, it was super expensive. Yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah. So
and
back to the East Coast thing, like you said, we did a lot of Caribbean drug ops. Like we're
okay,
always down in the Caribbean doing drug ops all the time. It just seemed like it was constant. I don't know how many times we went down there. So we hit a bunch of the islands down there. Did a North Atlantic and did a Caribbean. So hit kind of like the general places. Went to Greece, Italy,
oh nice,
Spain, Germany, you know, Norway, and then, like I said, a bunch of the Caribbean islands. Pretty much was about the gist of it.
yeah. I never did a Mediterranean until I got out of the Navy, and then I went on a cruise ship, and that was a lot better. That was a lot better than trying to.
I don't know. We had fun. Little island called Corfu
Oh,
in the Adriatic. It's part of
hmm,
Greece.
yeah.
That place was crazy. That was fun. Yeah, had a
Oh,
good
good.
time there.
So
Yeah.
was it a little closer to what it was? Because I don't even know what kind of ports they have that would kind of rival what we look at with Thailand and the Philippines.
Nothing.
Even
Corfu
yeah,
would have been about the closest probably. Lot of I think like a lot of college kids went there and a lot of tourists. So there was a lot of clubs and stuff, but it was kind of like think of you know Miami Beach
right.
sort of style.
Yeah.
That's what Corfu was. Neon lights, big
Hmm,
loud music, a lot of people,
hmm,
but just nothing like at
yeah.
all like what going through our head with like
Hmm,
uh, Philippines or Thailand.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you're right because I mean, one of the things I was looking at, and I can do with my current role, I can do work remote for 1 week anyway, and I can really work anywhere, which is great. But I thought about like, hey, what if I work in Hawaii for a week and then maybe do our trip where I can do the research for the next book? Going from Hawaii, I'll go straight to Hong Kong, and it was a little better, but it would run me right through the Philippines. And I was like, oh, if I land in the Philippines, I'm gonna have to get lost
like
for a little bit.
no, I'm like no, not do that.
Yeah, because I was like, I can't really put that into the book because it's not really. Although I can probably have my character do a little diversion through the Philippines because, of course, we were there in Subic. I think maybe I'll write that for another book. But I want to get like these shirts made up for like the Hewitt because I mean this is the Towers shirt, and I get those through the reunion because we have
Yeah,
a reunion through the Towers, and they have these shirts made up, but I was like, I want to do the same thing, get some Hewitt shirts or Mount Whitney. I don't know if I'd get a Mount Whitney shirt or not, but if I got the Hewitt, I can get them made up in the Philippines, but I don't have any connections in the Philippines anymore.
Yeah, I don't even know
That
I don't even know where people go. I mean, a lot of people I hear go to Cebu.
right.
I don't know if people really go up anything outside of what's the capital of the Philippines there? I don't know why I'm drawing a blank.
Manila,
Manila. Yeah, I don't know if
Manila.
people really get out of Manila much, but
Yeah.
it
So I've
seems like a
heard
lot of
there's.
people go to Cebu.
Yeah, exactly, and they do. I definitely heard that one of my buddies he'll go into the Philippines, but up by Clark Air Base, which there's no more Clark Air Base. That's Angeles City, and I think if
Oh
you want
yeah,
to have,
Angeles City. Yeah, they go up. Yeah, that. Yeah, Cebu and Angeles City. Yep,
yeah,
yep. Those are
and
the two
Angeles
ones you
City is a little
see.
rough. Yeah, it's
Well, I
it's
think they're
definitely
both a
rough
little
there.
rough. Yeah.
No, Cebu is actually pretty um, chill. It's more
Is it?
touristy. Yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of expats down there. And then I also I saw like Subic with a Longapo. It's like an industrial port now, and I guess they cleaned it up pretty nice. So I think that's one of those places I'd like to see again, like to see what does
See
Subic
what it
look
looks
like now.
like. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
I've,
we did the same shit. The government just did with this last administration. We just left. Like, here you go.
yeah,
Just left.
exactly. Yeah, it was so sad. And no, we did. There was a so after you flew, I think. When did you leave Japan? When did you leave the towers?
So we decommed, and I think I left in. I want to say it was right at the end. It was like October or November. Can't quite remember.
Okay, okay. So right around that time, because I was on the Hewitt, we didn't go. Oh no, no. So, anyways, the following June or May or June, something like that, Mount Pinatubo blew up outside of Clark Air Base. Um, and when it did, I talked to a few guys. They were on ships
Subic.
uh, in Subic at the time, and they were shoveling ash off the ship.
Wow.
It was so
Wow.
bad. And actually, that was kind of the beginning of the end. That's when we were kind of like, you know what? I think things are pretty screwed up, and they pulled out because of that. Well, the lease was up, but we didn't fight very hard for it because of the volcano really screwed things up. We were on the way to the Persian Gulf at the time uh, for Desert Storm on the
Desert
Hewitt when
Storm.
that went
Yeah.
over. Yeah, yeah, and I was like, oof, that was not good. But
Yeah, but I mean that
yeah,
was crazy. They had the airstrip there. They had all the
yeah,
they had that the depot on the other side. That was
yep,
where the towers. I don't know if you were there for that. We smashed into the ammo pier on the
oh,
towers. Were you there for that, or did that happen
yeah.
before you got there?
It might have happened before. I think
That
I
happened
remember.
before. So we were going over, right? We were going over to get some munitions,
Yep,
and some junior ensign didn't know what the hell he was doing. Smashes into the ammo pier.
yeah,
Remember on the towers we had the screw guards on the back part of the ship, at the stern of the ship, sticking out because the screws stuck out wider than the beam of the ship at the aft part. So you had those two
yep,
screw guards; they stuck out. The starboard screw guard was just crushed, and
yeah.
we tore up. We cracked the shaft, tore up the screw, and so we were stuck there for like 6 or 7 weeks. Dude, I went broke.
Right,
I can't be a PI for 6 weeks. Are you nuts? Go, I
right.
was broke. That's when I learned about how people borrowed money. I was like, oh
Yeah,
my god, yeah, I was borrowed money from somebody. I was like, yeah, 40 for 50, 40 for 60, whatever. I was like,
yeah.
yeah,
So I was not there because I wasn't there that long.
yeah,
So yeah, it was
it
before
was
my
tough.
time.
Yeah,
And it was always that was kind of the running joke. Even when let's say I'm pulling my truck into a parking spot and I hit the curb movement, maybe hit the parking block a little hard.
yeah,
And I still say this today. I'm like, moored, shift colors,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
because I think that was a joke at that time because whenever you just hit the pier hard, it's like, oh,
Yep.
Lord.
Or shift colors.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
That's funny.
That was, I remember, yeah, because with the Hewitt, we had vertical launch, and we would
Mhm.
have to go over there, and we get our the Tomahawks that way, and
Yeah.
we stopped on the way over to Desert Storm just because we're like, are we getting some specials? But I don't know if we got
Yeah.
specials
Yeah.
or not. But
Yeah.
yeah,
We carried specials on the Seattle when I was on there. Had specials.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Pain
and
in
of
the
course they
ass.
always talked about that with the towers, and they're like, I was like, what on the ASRock?
On the
You
ASRock.
can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could, but I was like,
You
that's the
could.
dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
'Cause it only goes
Yeah.
out 15 miles and it looks for
Yeah.
sub and you got to run
Yeah.
the other way. That's not going to
Well,
work.
yeah, I think that would have had to have been a mod to not actually been a special ASRock. It would have had to have been the ASRock launcher modded to hold a special, I think, But yeah, that
Yeah.
was just anyway.
And I
But
remember
yeah,
when
man.
we were in Bunbury, kind of looking at Bunbury, I was the topside rover when I had duty. And so they were given tours. And of course, I'm walking around, I've got a sidearm. Um, and I remember these girls, they're cute. They're like, do you have nukes on board? I'm like, so I had to go through the whole, I can neither confirm nor deny. It's like, I just wanted to be like, no, we look at this ship. You can't have a nuke on this. But yeah, that
Yeah.
was just a little much. But yeah, it was such a good time. I really look at what it did for me, where I'm at now, and our stories that we go through now, and thinking about our future trip. I'm doing that future trip because I need to be able to get that. I got to get that book done. I'm still working on it. It's going to take me a little while, but that'll be the follow up. But what do you think really helped you with the Navy, or well, what did you get from the Navy that really helped you today, and what your life is like today?
You know, uh, boot camp was boot camp. You learn a lot in boot camp, right? 1 5 day for anybody who remembers what that was like. I don't know if they still
Yeah.
do it the same way, but 1 5 day was like, holy cow, right? And you learned learned a lot in boot camp about just um, dealing with other people,
Mhm.
getting instruction, chain of command, all that crap, And Towers was, I really, believe it or not, I think I really enjoyed the Towers. Out of the 6 years, 1 month and 7 days I was in the Navy. But
Yeah.
yeah, the second ship, I learned that I don't want to be in the Navy, and it's not for me. And but uh, either way, it doesn't matter. Got out of the service, and I had, we had all that training from, uh, really more from C school. I mean, A school training didn't really give you much, memorizing numbers. It's like,
Right.
whatever. Okay. This batch of numbers in this set in this order equals, that. Like, okay, whatever. Hit a button on a keyboard, click a mouse, whatever. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, the Towers had remember we had a Whirly One, so that was kind of cool playing around with that and learning a little bit more. But C school really is, what got the training that I needed, and then of course when I left the military, it was Martin Marietta at the time. Dropped
Yeah.
into Martin Marietta as a technician working on amplifiers for communication satellites.
Okay.
So I mean that's what got I mean that and they love hiring military, so it worked out great, and kept going with the company. I got my bachelor's and my master's degree paid by the company. Got 31 years next month, 31 years with the company. I mean,
Wow.
all that's really attributed to the military background.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I feel the same way because I think that the the C school really helped out, and like I said, A school was really nothing and just kind of got us out there. But yeah, the C school really helped out, and to learn how to troubleshoot, how to figure things out. You had to figure things out because if we're a C and something goes down,
Yeah,
we
fix it.
just can't. Yeah, can't call Amazon or CDW and say, "Hey, I need this."
Yeah.
When you
Can't
get
call
back
tech
in,
support. Tech
nope.
support.
No.
There's
Yeah,
your manual. Open it up.
exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that was definitely a good time. And I had a great time on the towers. That was, I think I was still trying to figure things out. Just, me personally. And yeah, I was brand new and I didn't come in with, a big attitude. Like, hey, I did great in aid school. I didn't have that. But when I went to the Mount Whitney after C school, I did kind of have that attitude a little bit because I did so well. But the problem was when I went on the Mount Whitney, I went on a V3 ship as a V2 tech.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a challenge for me
Yeah, I was the
because,
same way. Seattle was a V3 and I was a V2 tech, and
oh,
I didn't
wow.
really care. Yeah, I didn't really care to go back to school. And I was like, whatever, I don't care. I learned everything I needed to learn. Uh, so my buddy, so the guy I went to C school with, buddy Jim Drexel, he and I 1 and 2 all the way through school. Every week, one of us was number one and the other one was number two all the way through. And we ended up getting orders to the same ship. And then
Oh, wow.
he went back for V3 school. And I was like, well, I mean, was it worth it? He's like, yeah, it's just they just taught you the other parts of the other shit. I'm like, okay, got the active
Yeah.
jammer. I worked on all of it with him. In fact,
Yeah.
our first class that I try to keep my tone down. Our first class on the towers, I hated the guy. This was the reason. He's the one reason why I got out of the military. He was a
Okay.
complete freaking butthead, man. He was an
Yeah.
animal. But so I'm working on the V3 shit with my buddy, and
Yeah.
we had a motor, right? So you have the starboard array, right, was
Hmm.
on a gimbal system, right? So
Yep.
as the ship rocked, it could match the horizon, right?
Hmm.
So the motor went out. So we were like, shit. So we had to go and replace that. So if you remember this system was 3-phase 440, and that motor was 440. And I was up there with my buddy, and we were on the comms. I'm like, hey, did Thor, our EW1, did he shut it off? Did he tag out the system? Yes. I didn't go down to look at the freaking panel to make sure. So all I remember is I putting the wrench on the nut to take the power
Yeah.
lead off, and
Uh-huh.
it goes black. So the railing's about 4 feet behind it, and I wake up
Yeah.
and Drex is like, dude. I'm like, what? What the fuck? I'm like, fucking Thor. I said, he didn't tag it out, did he? No, obviously not. I was so pissed, and I was more concerned about me getting in trouble because I didn't check it, because I knew that asshole would have put it on me, right?
Yeah.
That it was my responsibility to check that he tagged it out when he says he tagged it out and he didn't. I was like, yeah,
Wow.
I was like, what a freaking moron. But anyway, so yeah,
Yeah.
did that, worked on that V3 system. I worked on all of it, worked on the heat exchanger, the cooling setup, all the tweeters, because I had like a zillion tweeters, and worked
Yeah.
on all of it. So it was pretty cool. I mean, and like I said, when I left the military, started work for Lockheed, I was working in it on RF amps. Right, they're called SSPA, solid state power amplifiers. For at the time it was AT&T, then it was GE. Back then was making satellites. On this other European company, we built satellites, communication satellites, and we put like 50 or 60 of these amps on a satellite.
Uh-huh.
So that was my job, so we'd build them and then we had to tune them. We had to tune them and
Okay.
run all these RF tests on them to make sure that they all uh, met spec, and then delivered them down to the vehicle guys. So yeah,
Okay. Oh, wow.
yeah,
Yeah, and of course, when I get out, I finally make my way into a company where we did mail machines. So, mail machines. So it was a lot different. It really didn't give us. It was fine. It was a job. It really helped out for quite a few years, and it
yeah.
got me. I was working on software, but I still knew how to work on the hardware, so I was able to do both, and that was what the Navy taught me as well. Going from knowing the software and the hardware, so I would have never got into that if I didn't join the Navy. I would have never gotten into electronics, and I would have never gotten into computers. So it's kind of a I'm very grateful for what it did for me. But yeah, you're right. There are certain people that when you go through the military, they just stick out as just being not the
Uh,
greatest. it can really.
I'm on that
Hey,
section of your book. I'm on that section. Here's your book pitch. I'm on that section of your book. The was it part 2 or whatever? Like where you the Great Deception, or is that what it's called? Yeah.
yeah,
So I just got to that part. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter where you go in life. I mean, it feels sometimes like the guys in the military. And again, I don't know what it's like now that it was, when we were in. Back then,
mhm,
guys could be assholes and get away with it and just do
yeah,
shit just because. I didn't get into the whole second ship that I was on, but they tried to send me to. Actually, they sent me to captain's mast. There's a whole story behind this. I went. My senior command master chief says, "You're not going. This is bullshit. Your first class is an asshole. He just doesn't like you." So he kicked it out. He didn't let it go to what was it, CPO review board. He's like, no. And finally, the XO, who this first class were buddy, they're like, oh no, you master chief, you have to put it through. So I put it through, and I go to captain's mast, and captain's like, Pastor Knapp, what are you doing here? I'm like, I was trying to get back to the ship. I was with a group of people. We were at someplace in Italy. I don't remember where the hell we were at. And they told us to spend the night because the ship wasn't there. I was told later on that the ship got there at 4 p.m. The next morning, we reported to the ship, like 7 of us, all
yeah,
shipped from the States over there. And Thor was trying to tell me that I disobeyed a direct order by not going to the ship immediately. So Captain was like, he's like, this is stupid. And he says, you know what? He says, far be it for me to disregard my XO and the ops boss. So this is what I'm going to do. He's like, 45, 3 months pay, everything's suspended. I'll do the 30 days of restriction. And as soon as this is done, bring me the chit, and I'm going to have this wiped off your record and give you your money back. He's like, does that sound okay? I
okay,
said, we're in the med. I was like, I was going to miss one port. I didn't really care to go to. I'm like, sure, okay, fine. And it was like, it was just, that was the kind of crap that that was like, obviously the final kind of straw that broke the camel's back of kind of really just jerk type people being
yeah,
in the military and doing it. I'm like, it was just so stupid. I was like, whatever, dude. You guys are just being complete buttheads because you're mad at me for whatever reason. Doesn't
yeah,
matter, And so anyway, went back down. I think I have a copy of my records. It doesn't even show up. They just literally threw it out, gave me all my money
good.
back, and yeah, it was funny.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I've never. And yeah, you're right. When you run across those people, and it was those lifers that just,
Yeah,
because if you had any sort of attitude that, I don't really need, I don't plan on being here past it, I'm not going to re-enlist, and people would kind of take that at heart and say, well, they're really not here for the right reasons, I'm going to make their life hell. And that was the type of
right.
I
Exactly.
didn't like to work with. So yeah, that was, and for me with the Mount Whitney, the other big part there was I was the only single guy. Everybody else I was on the ship with were all married, except for the chief and the first class. They were both divorced, but they both had custody of their kids. So
Kids.
it's not like I
So
can
they had
hang
a
out with them.
pseudo married life or, pseudo family life at home that they dealt with. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So that was the big thing that I ran into because I was like, I don't want to deal with this, and I couldn't see myself in the military after that. After that whole thing, and I did have one of my friends. He went into the military all gung ho, like I'm going to retire. And after I think C school, when he got on a second ship, he's like, I'm not going to be in here that much longer,
Yeah.
and he got out, but. The bad thing there was that he did not do the GI Bill. So he,
Dude, I didn't either. I was
yeah,
like, I sort of felt bad like when I got out, but you know what? And sorry to interrupt you there, but yeah, I didn't either. I was like, shit, I should have done it. But Lockheed paid for my bachelor's and my master's. They paid for all my schooling after that. They paid for it. So I mean,
absolutely.
I really lucked out. I mean, I got out. I started as a technician, which is hourly for the company,
Yeah.
and I doubled my pay. What I took
Yeah.
home twice a month, I was making in 1 week. I was like,
Yeah.
"This is great." Oh, they
Nice.
have overtime. Hold on, time and a half, double time. what? I'm like, this is great. Like I worked over Thanksgiving weekend. Like I would do it every other year. And like I worked Thanksgiving weekend. Thursday and Friday was essentially worked out to triple time. Saturday was
Yeah.
time and a half, and Sunday was double time. I would pull like almost 3 weeks of pay in a week. It was crazy, man. I was like,
Yeah.
I can dig this, and nobody's mad at me. Nobody's trying
So
to make
was the
my life
reason
miserable.
exactly? So was one of the reasons why you didn't get the GI Bill was because did you think you were going to stay in longer, or were you just not interested in college when you went in?
When I got in, I wanted to go and get my degree, and I wanted to at all costs wanted to get into some sort of flight program.
Okay.
Yeah, which
Oh,
never
nice.
panned out. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you remember why we went in? We saw Top Gun.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah,
Uh-huh.
Top Gun. Oh my God, join the Navy
Exactly.
because of Top Gun, right? Yeah,
Right. Oh, I know.
that
I
was the
know.
best recruitment thing that they had back in the '80s was Top Gun.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. I remember that movie. And I forgot which I think it was one of the times in boot camp they did play that movie. I was like, this is pretty cool.
That's funny.
So it's a good way to do
Yeah,
it. So all right. Well, Dave, I really appreciate the time. I was gonna say,
yeah,
well, as soon as
brother.
I end it, we'll just, stick on for a couple minutes, let this whole thing process. But yeah, I do want to pimp the book like usual. Usually I do at the beginning as well. I don't know why I didn't, but yeah, Deception Underway on sale at barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, also underwaybooks.com. I have that domain and I've got that website. So I try to sell a book or two through there. And I had a book event yesterday, which was pretty cool, but it was a Saturday, middle of the day. I guess some people forgot, but it still was a good time. There's quite a few people. I sold books to people I didn't even know, which was pretty cool. So
That's
that was
awesome.
a
That's awesome, brother.
neat
I'm
little
happy
thing.
for you.
So
Hopefully, it keeps going and it's successful. And
yeah,
and if this second book,
yeah,
hopefully the process goes well and you're successful with that as well.
absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of things I'm taking kind of those life lessons of what I've learned with the first one, trying to make the second one a little better. And then I do need, like I said, Dave, I'm going to be working on those dates. I think the first 2 weeks of October. We'll get over
Yeah, yeah.
to
I saw your email about the dates. I can work with any of them. So yeah, I might stay over a little bit longer than you, but
sure.
yeah, I'd like to hit some of the more kind of cool places to go visit. As
Yeah,
far I'm like, if I'm gonna go over and be there, I'm like, I'm gonna spend some more time
yeah,
and maybe go up to northern part of the country and see some of the
sure.
cool places up there, and then maybe spend a couple more days
Hmm.
in Singapore.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that would be because I mean it's so cheap to just fly around out there, and that's and like I said, we have some shipmates over there anyways, and I've got some
Awesome,
friends over there. You can meet
great,
up with any of those guys, and they can.
yeah,
I think they can point you in the right direction. Like, hey, look at this, look at which I can't. I can't. All I know is like Muay Thai. Where do you go
yeah,
for Muay
yeah,
Thai? I've
yeah.
got those down.
I
Um,
actually have a contact. This woman who she used to waitress at my favorite sushi place.
uh,
He's from Thailand. She's from Thailand. She's going, there's a FIT, Florida International School down here that a lot of foreigners go to. Long story short, she's doing her master's program. We get to know each other. She's back in Thailand working for Thai government, I think. So I'll be like, hey, where should I go to check out some cool stuff? So
yeah.
um, yeah, should be good.
That's awesome. We'll definitely get there. I gotta figure things out on my side, but I think in the next couple weeks
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
get my travel
let's
going.
do that. I'm going to be traveling a little bit here the month of June too, but we should be able to find some time to tag up and work out dates.
Perfect. Awesome, man. All
Awesome.
right. Well, hey, we'll end the podcast here. Dave, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. It's on a Sunday. I'll post this in the next couple days. I'm getting to figure out the whole process to post to the different podcasts. I scheduled it the last one, but it didn't kick off, so I had to manually upload it the next day. So, but
No
I'll
worries.
send
Thanks
you
a
the
lot, Pat. I
links.
appreciate you having me on.
Awesome, man. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
All right, brother.